Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode number 10 of the European Volleyball Show, where myself and Rob go over the biggest stories, players, and everything else in European volleyball. And Rob, I think we've been looking forward to this one for a while. It's going to be a great episode today. We are breaking down finally the super finals matchup between the two teams on the med side, Trentino and Kędzierzyn-Koźle.
Hey Dan, happy Friday. This has been a long time coming. The cool thing about the Champions League schedule is that we have all of this time to build up the anticipation and break everything down before super finals, which is kind of coming up quick. We got just a couple weeks. What is it, like 3 weeks from tomorrow? 2 weeks from tomorrow?
2 weeks.
From tomorrow.
2 weeks. We're
Wow.
just about there already. So
Amazing.
going to be a great episode. First of all, guys, we're going to go over a couple quick pieces of news here because it's pretty big news. If you guys can probably see to my left or right, if you're, I guess, watching on the other side. The two topics we're going to talk about and then get right into the super finals men matchup. And during these beginning of the show, get in some questions about that super finals matchup, and we'll try and get to them all today and just really let it soak in, break down every aspect of this matchup because I'm very excited about this, and I hope you guys are as well. So I guess we can get right into it, Rob. Some big news last night or a couple nights ago about Irvin Engapet, the French outside hitter, making his way to back to Modena for next season.
Back to Modena, where he had, in my opinion, the bulk of his club success. Is that a hot take? I think a lot of people would agree with that, right?
No, I would think so. I mean, when I think of Irvin Engapet, I think of Modena, I would say.
Yeah, it's such a great fit for him. I think he's much more of an Italian league player than he is a Russian league player. And we have so far on the show not talked about transfers until they've become official. And we have reason to believe that this is pretty official. So yeah, Irvin Ingapeth leaving Zenit Kazan, going back to Modena, where he played, wish I knew how many years, quite a few years in Modena, the source of a lot of highlights. I think it was there when he kind of pioneered that, like the second ball option out of the pipe sort of thing, where he started, jumping from behind the 3 meter line and setting people on the pins and faking out blockers, which has since been copied by pretty much the entire world. So like when I think of that, I think of Irvin in Modena, and when he left Modena before, I remember there being some drama, which seems to follow him really no matter what club he plays for. But going back seems like it really fits to me. And we've talked about Modena a lot this year, that they've had quite an interesting year. They've been affected more by the fact that there have been no fans, maybe, than any other team in all of volleyball. But this is a big signing. This is a very big signing. We've talked about Modena's kind of weaknesses at least like the elite level wing attackers, and picking up someone once again of Irvin Ingapeth's caliber is a big deal. So this is a big signing. I'm really excited to see this. I think it's a great fit, and we've seen it before. I'm excited to see it again.
Yeah, for sure. And who knows? Maybe it'll go smoothly. Maybe it won't. But I think Modena, and I talked to Micah Christensen in an interview earlier on in the season, and he was pretty candid in saying we are kind of taking a step back this year. We're not having the absolutely elite team, losing Bartosz Bednors, Matt Anderson, Max Holt, and Ivan Zaitsev in the offseason, I believe, is all the players. So
that's quite the list.
That is an all-star team that basically they lost. So looks like they might be trying to get some of the band back together again. I mean, those were great teams in Modena with Engapet and with Bruno and with Lucas Sakamp. So, I mean, it's one move for sure. It's not a move that's going to change the course of their franchise by himself and Engapet, but I think it's probably the first of a few big moves they plan on making.
Agreed. This is going to be a very interesting offseason for club transfers. And again, we're not going to address them until they're official, like until the club posts about them or until we've got really, really good intel about these moves. But we will have a show about that at some point, and there's going to be a lot of shuffling around, and it's going to be really fun to project club results about next season across all the European leagues.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet, but definitely we'll have some transfer shows, as we mentioned before. And I just want to say hi to everyone in the chat: Katerina, Georgie, Mateo, Carlos. Good to see everyone. Remember, guys, stay engaged, stay involved. We'll try and answer any questions you guys have today. But that wasn't the only news in Engapet going to Modena. We also had another, one that came completely out of left field, at least for me, and that's Perugia and Polish national team coach Vital Heinen getting fired from Perugia quite suddenly last night.
That was, I thought when I first heard that news that it was a joke. Like, I think I first saw it on your Instagram story, Dan, 5-1 Volleyball Instagram story. I think you just posted like, wow, Heinen. I'm like, oh no, what did he do? And then I looked into it and saw that he had been released. This is crazy. And what's funny is that we saw kind of the same thing with Lube Civitanova, who is playing Perugia in the Scudetto finals like a couple weeks ago or a month or two ago, when they fired their coach in the middle of a Champions League series. Like it's unthinkable to me to fire a coach at that time. Perugia loses one match to Lube, like in a best of 5 series. The series not even close to over, and they decide that now is the time to fire Vital Heinen. I just don't understand that. It's almost as if they're phoning it in, like kind of admitting defeat for like the most important series of the year, one match in. I don't understand this, Dan. What are your takes? I don't really know.
I mean, who knows? There's always obviously we're not in the locker room. I always like to say we're not. Yeah. We have access to 0.01% of the story in these kinds of situations. But I think compared to other sports, yes, it does seem a bit of a strange move to fire your coach in the middle of a series. I mean, really, what is the difference that a new coach at this point is going to make, right? Maybe Lube Civitanova felt they still potentially had, half a dozen games left in the season, so a new coach could bring a new energy to the team. But Perugia max has 4 games left?
At most.
At most,
yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, we don't know the whole story, but I don't think it's going to make a difference either way. And, I said before the series, I do believe Perugia can definitely win this series. And they did not play well the first game for sure, unfortunately. But I think, they can only play better from here to judge the team based on one of their worst performances of the season, in a game where Robert Landy-Simon scores, 22 points as a middle blocker.
Which is like the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Yeah, you're going to take that one match and just decide that match is the straw that's the last straw for Vital Heinen and get him out of there. I don't get that. Now, Perugia's had a very interesting year. They've had a lot of the revolving door at the opposite position, of course, has been a huge deal. The setter position not being very good has been a big deal. They've still got the best player in the world. Actually, of all the teams that there are, Perugia, just the way they're built, actually is affected by coaching and lineup decisions a little bit more than the average team. Definitely more so than Lube, which was the Lube one confused me a little bit more because there was really no doubt at all about the lineup configuration that Lube is ever going to use in a given match. But Perugia actually has some more options. So I'm very curious to see. I think they just promoted one of their assistant coaches, right?
Yes, I believe. I mean, it's what you can't really find a new coach. It's tough to find a guy on for one
maximum
day, right?
4 matches.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go through some of the comments here. Are there any rumors about why they fired him? Not really. I mean, just because they lost the match, right? So maybe there's some disagreements. Anyway, we don't want to get into rumors or anything on this show. Yeah, someone else agrees. Does it even make sense? New coach won't have time to change anything. Exactly. So
there's a comment in all caps that says, "Oh, maybe the new coach put Shawan in."
Yes.
Shawan Vernon-Evans.
that would be.
And I would
genius.
both like to see that very much.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing about Perugia, which we can go over quickly again, is that that this team is completely different because they had Alexander Atanasievich injured the whole year, and you said they have 100%. Some interesting lineup decisions to make, and that's really only because their superstar opposite scorer was injured the entire season. So I think a completely different and that's not Heinen's fault, right? So I think that's a completely different story if that doesn't happen. And again, they're down 1-0 in the finals. They could still come back, right? So
absolutely. A comment in there makes a good point. It's not fair to Heinen. If they win, his work from whole season will be disregarded. If they lose, they blame him for that anyway. So they are kind of scapegoating. I think they were looking for a person to take the fall for. I don't even know if it's this one match necessarily, but I do think it's looking forward to if they do in fact lose the series, which if I had to predict it right now, I think they will lose the series. I think Lube is better than them. I think that they're just looking to place blame on someone, and rather than putting it on any player or combination of players, I think they've just decided that Heinen's going to be the fall guy, and sure enough, they pulled the trigger on firing him early. I don't
Yes.
know. It's a very interesting situation, but like you said, Dan, this series is not over yet. It's one game in. Game 2 is Sunday, correct?
Sunday at 6 p.m. on Rai Sport for anyone who is asking for a stream there.
Cool. Well, I think that's the next couple matches will speak for themselves, I suppose.
And then, okay, let's do one more thing before definitely, guys, we will spend a lot of time on the super finals right away here. But Alexander Butko making a move out of Zenit Kazan to a Kemerovo, as the chat is saying. So
one of the best and most important pieces of Zenit Kazan's dominance over the last 5, 6, 7 years, whatever. Butko's been amazing for Zenit Kazan, but he has gotten a little bit of criticism for his play this year. I don't think it's been entirely his fault. Zenit Kazan had a rough stretch, then they had an incredible stretch. They failed to even make the semifinals in the Russian League playoffs for the first time in who knows how long. People are going to forget, they're just going to look at the fact that they lost, but we're going to forget how close they were to advancing to the super finals and Champions League. Like the knife's edge was so ridiculously thin. We could easily be spending this whole show talking about them playing on May 1st instead of Zaxa. So Butko's had a phenomenal career. It does sound like he's going to Kuzbas officially, but with Kazan losing their setter and one of their superstar outside hitters, who knows? Could it be the beginning of the end of this incredible era? We'll see.
Yes, I think it's. I mean, I think it's the end of this dynasty for sure. And the awkward thing about this one is, what do you do with Maxim Mikhailov?
Right.
Because he's still playing at an absolutely top elite level. He is one of the best opposites in the world still,
and is somehow still underrated.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I mean, I think they have Zenit Kazan, like the club, attracts very good players because they have that history, they have the infrastructure, they have everything around the club. It's a legendary franchise, one of the most well-known names in all of volleyball. So I think if they want, they can go either way. If they want to get really good right away, for sure they can do it. If they want to, maybe develop Voronkov, maybe take on a couple of the younger Russian guys and build towards 3 or 4 years. We'll see which way they decide to go. But
yeah, they're going to be a very interesting subject of our transfer shows when those come up in a couple months. Yeah. But for now, Dan, I think it is time.
It's definitely time. And before, guys, we get into it, I just want to share where you can watch the match. You can watch it on eurovolley.tv, or if you haven't seen the event we've created on Facebook, guys, this is a really, really cool thing. We're doing a live stream on Facebook where you can buy a virtual ticket just for that event. So, if you don't want to make a Eurovolley TV account and you have access to this Facebook stream, I think it's going to be a really cool event where you guys can chat with each other during the match, and I think it's going to be awesome.
So yeah, the Champions League men's super finals is one match, not a series. Yes. One do or die match on Saturday, May 1st. It's in Verona, Italy, correct?
You're absolutely correct. The home place of Romeo and Juliet. So very exciting.
Very nice. I like that. We can milk some storylines out of that one. Yeah, both the men's and women's Champions League finals, one match, same place, same day. So that's one massively huge event, and it's time. Our teams, we've got, I guess, pretty much the de facto home team in Trentino, and the Polish fireball legends of this year, Zaxa Kędzierzyn-Koźle, and man, where to begin? There's so much to talk about this matchup. It's been really, the fact that these two teams are where they're at is pretty much a miracle. Like in each case, it is stunning that these two teams are playing for this championship.
I have to say, yeah, this is like one of the most exciting playoff phases actually probably the most exciting up to this point. Watching those Zaxa versus Zenit Kazan games, I was bouncing off the walls.
Oh my goodness, those were
Those
unbelievable.
Lube versus Zaxa games, I can't believe that was only a few weeks ago, and like that feels like an eternity ago.
Yeah, those were quarterfinals. Like, come on, those delivered the level of match that they did and the excitement. Oh man, yeah, I agree, Dan. This has been maybe the most fun season of volleyball I've ever watched. Definitely for club, no question. And just imagine if there have been fans in the stands for all this stuff.
I know it's really too bad. But
next year,
Rob, do you want to go over? Maybe we can go over a couple of the important games that brought both of these teams here to the superfinals in Verona.
Sure. So let's start with Zaxa. So everybody knows about Zaxa. They're by far the best team in the Polish Plus Liga this year. Not even close.
Don't say that
in the regular season. In the regular season, we'll talk about what they have going on at the moment in just a minute. But they steamrolled everyone in the regular season, number one seed in the playoffs, and in Champions League they weren't really challenged that much in the fourth round. They beat Polish rivals Skra Belkotov. They beat Fenerbahce from Turkey. They beat Lindemans Aalst from Belgium. Pretty convincingly. They got the number one seed in Pool A, pretty much no problem. But really the question was, okay, we know that Zaxa is good, but are they elite? Can they contend to win this tournament? Or are they just a good Polish team that's going to win a playoff match or two and then fizzle out in the semifinals against one of the big boys? And we got that question answered after they got by far the toughest draw in the drawing of lots before the quarterfinals. By far the most difficult draw of any of the 8 teams, going through the absolute like dynastic legends in Zenit Kazan and the reigning champs in Lubech-Civitanova.
Sorry guys, are we getting an echo here? If so, just let me know in the chat. Anyway, yeah, but just to hop on a couple of your points there, Rob. Yes, I mean, I thought the pool phase, maybe you undersold it a bit, because I came into the season, especially once Taylor Sander came back, saying that Belkotov was a good team and potentially was up there contending with Kędzierzyn-Koźle, and yeah, that didn't quite turn out their season. But I thought the ease that they dealt with Belkotov was, I think, one of the early signs, and also with Fenerbahce, who I'm biased because I think Hogue and Vigras are great and Hidalgo's great, but they dealt with them very easily as well. So I think that perfect 6-0 with only 1 5-setter was a bit of an inkling of what's to come. But like you said, once we got to that drawing of lots, I think when we were here in the office, like our jaws were on the floor because we were like, maybe this was the year that finally a Polish team gets a little farther in the tournament. But no, I think no one thought they were going to get through both Lubech-Civitanova and Zenit Kazan. Yeah,
that I remember doing pretty much a live reaction to the drawing of lots on this show, and we were like, "Oh man, poor Zaxa, poor Zaxa." They got hit with just the craziest gauntlet of matches that they possibly could have drawn, and I think that their coach Nikola Grbic at the time said, "This is great. This is the best drawing of lots we could have gotten," and that really took me by surprise. I'm like, Nikola, I know you're confident in your team, but I'm not sure how you could like logically say such a thing. Like, this doesn't really make sense to me. But sure enough, man, Zaxa's unique style and all of their incredible strengths and their team chemistry, which we'll talk about later, were put to the ultimate test. And the first match that they beat Lubech-Civitanova 3-1 on the road was kind of a wake-up call to all of us volleyball fans. Like, oh man, this might be this might be possible. Zaxa might be able to do this. This style that they play, this little Polish team that has been together for so many years with so many of the same pieces, they might be able to do this thing. And sure enough, they advanced via a golden set, which was one of the craziest moments of this entire season against Lube at home. I think 16-14 in the golden set. I did a reaction video on that on this YouTube channel. Go check that out. It was unbelievable. Łukasz Kaczmarek with the set-winning ace to advance to knock the defending champs off. Like, come on, you can't make this stuff up. It was just amazing. And then even after doing all of that, then they have to go play the greatest Champions League team in the history of this event. Like, come on, how much more could you expect out of poor little Zaksa? But they get past that too in what may have been an even more dramatic 2-match series.
Yeah, and I mean, Zaksa's season so far, I'll maybe bring this up later, but it almost seems like it was just like written for a sports movie, right? Like everything came together so perfectly. And yeah, I just remember that Kaczmarek ice that you mentioned in Juan Torena, just kind of looking defeated. Is like, what happened? Where did this come from?
How is this possible? Yeah.
Because just I don't want to undersell the skill level of Polish teams, but you know we have seen a lot in the past that they look fantastic, they look amazing. It's even Zaksa the last couple of years, and then they meet a top Italian or Russian team, and then some weaknesses, I guess, get exposed. But that did not happen against Lube Civitanova. And you know, looking about where Lube is in the Italian season, beating Trentino in the semifinals and maybe beating Perugia as well. The fact that Kędzierzyn-Koźle was able to beat them, very impressive.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting kind of like triangle of like almost like a rock, paper, scissors battle between teams like Trentino, Lube, and Perugia have kind of beaten each other in a triangle this year. Throw Zaksa in there, throw Zenit Kazan in there, and the wins and losses in each of those individual matchups has created some really interesting things domestically and in Champions League. There's been no dominant team this year. I mean, Zenit Kazan dominant the past several years, not this year. Lube won this competition 2 years ago, not even in the finals, even though they might win their domestic league. Like, it's crazy this whole season. And the Zenit Kazan Zaksa matchup in the semifinals of this tournament, I mentioned it might have been even more dramatic than the Lube series. And I'm not kidding about that. You guys got to remember the first match of the semifinals, Zenit Kazan at home up 2-0 on Zaksa, had a match point, I think 24-23 in set 3, had a free ball opportunity on offense to win the match 3-0 and basically put 1 foot into the finals. And Irvin Ingapeth passes the free ball and is already celebrating before Jakub Kokonowski makes the read of all reads and solo blocks Artem Volvic straight down to save the match. A couple points later, Camille Semaniac kills a ball against 3 blockers to win the set. Zaksa storms all the way back. They win 16-14 set 5 on a ridiculous joust between Kokonowski and Alexander Volkov. Like, come on. Talk about being written for a sports movie. It's one of the best volleyball comebacks considering the stakes and the high level and the situation that I've ever even seen. It was so close to being 3-0 Zenit Kazan, and the story's pretty much over. Honestly, you could argue that should have been the case. Zenit Kazan with a free ball to win the match, that they should get that 10 times out of 10. Come on, but that one play. And we did a top 10 video for Zaksa's whole Champions League, and I talked about this play when I recorded my voice over it. It was that one play, that Kokonowski play, changed the entire course of European volleyball this year. not only club, it changed all the domestic leagues. It may have impacted transfers. It may impact national teams. I'm not kidding. That one play will have crazy ripple effects for at least a year, and I'm not kidding about that. That's how significant it was.
I know, and guys, it sounds like Rob's it's a hyperbole, but really it's not. Like you said, 95 to 99% of the time, you know, they make that if Buko does any other play other than like a middle shoot that Kohanowski, you know, was committing to, if he goes behind him, if he goes to outside, if he goes pipe, that's over, and we have Zenit Kazan in the finals, and who knows, maybe Zenit Kazan would do better in Russia, right? If they didn't get knocked out so early in Champions League. So
maybe Butko stays, maybe Butko doesn't leave, maybe Ingapeth doesn't leave, maybe, like, who knows what that could have affected if that one play had been different. I'm not kidding about its great impact.
Yeah, so I mean, Kędzierzyn-Koźle, and maybe we'll talk a bit about this later, Rob, but that the other side of this, super exciting for fans, is that it's exhausting for the players. So we might get into that a bit later, but that is a lot of volleyball to play. Just going to address a couple comments here. A few people asking about where they can follow news on Champions League and everything like that. And guys, we just released our new version of our website. So definitely check out the new look, cev.eu, championsleague.cev.eu, and superfinals.cev.eu. We're getting articles pretty much every single day, talking with players, breaking down the matches, breaking down everything to do with Champions League, and giving you guys all the latest news and information. So definitely check out the website if you would like some volleyball news. And I'll just show
congrats to the CEV about the new website. It looks fantastic. I really encourage everyone to go check it out.
Yeah, and Georgie always coming with the great facts here. The last time a non-Italian or Russian team for the men won Champions League was in 2007.
Wow.
Friedrichshafen. So yeah, it's been a while. Russia and Italy have really dominated the landscape of men's volleyball for quite a while now.
Yeah, that's just incredible. And who knows what's going to happen here in the finals, but really either way this goes, it's going to be extremely significant. For whichever team wins, it will be very, very significant.
Okay, and we've talked about Zaxa. What about the other side of the bracket here? What about Trentino here, Rob?
So Trentino, talk about like stories written for a sports movie. We need to go way further back to really capture Trentino's journey to where they are right now. So Dan, quickly explain for the people how this tournament works before the fourth round, because that's where Trentino came from. I don't know all this perfectly well, but I understand that you qualified directly for the fourth round based on your finish in your domestic league and your finish in previous Champions Leagues. And Trentino last year did neither of those things well enough to go straight to the fourth round. They had to qualify through the first and second rounds, beating some crazy teams on the way and having some of the most ridiculous complications and triumphs through those complications of any team in all of volleyball this year.
Yeah, so basically there was an extra spot available for Russian, Italian, and Polish teams to qualify through the second round this year, which is kind of the qualifying rounds for the fourth round. So 18 teams qualify directly by placing at the top of their domestic leagues the previous season, and 2 spots are awarded to teams who make it through the gauntlets of the first 2 rounds. And so we had some pretty good teams in the second round this year, and especially another very good team, our CV Cup champions, Dynamo Moscow, who also won the Russian League last week. Shout out to Pavel Pankov, the MVP there. And yeah, Trentino took care of business against an extremely strong team, 3-0 in Amersville, to make their way into the fourth round, which was kind of where this all began. And like you mentioned, like you alluded to earlier, they had a very interesting wrinkle around this time as well.
Yeah, so it's been brought up on the show here a couple times, but Trentino, before coming into this season, Trentino made some phenomenal moves in transfer in the offseason. They brought in Lucarelli. They already had the 2 gigantic, incredible Serbian middle blockers. They had Dick Coy, who I think was new to the team at the time, but was poised to take on a much bigger role now that he counts as an Italian.
Pedrasian was new as well.
Pedrasian, oh yeah, that's right. Pedrasian came in. Already had Gianelli, and Namir Abdelaziz was starting his really true rise to superstardom at the opposite position. So especially with that Lucarelli signing, we in the volleyball world were like, oh man, we better watch out for Trentino this year. And at the start of the Italian season, like Italian Super Cup in the first couple weeks of their regular season, it was not working out that way. Trentino did not look good, and not all of it was their fault, because in this season, unlike any other, they got hit with COVID harder than just about any other team in volleyball. And Simone Gianelli, their setter and arguably most important player, was taken completely off the court during the time that they had to play these second round matches and to stay alive in order to even get to the fourth round of Champions League. And somehow it was this match, really this series against Dynamo Moscow, and who was the other team they played?
Amersville.
Novi Sad? Amersville.
Yeah.
That's right, from Switzerland. So not only did they beat Dynamo Moscow 3-0, they beat them 25-18, 25-13, 25-16. Like
it was the low ceilings, Rob. It was the low ceilings.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Blame it on whatever you want, but that is a domination. And with no Gianelli, with Namir Abdelaziz returning to the setter position. It's just stunning that was the turning point of Trentino's season. They figured it out. They found a way to take the situation that they had, take the players that they had, beat a phenomenally good Dynamo Moscow team who obviously has played a lot better since this time. This was all the way back in October. But they advanced to the fourth round. They got Gianelli back. They went on a huge run in Italy. They went on a huge run in Champions
Small
League.
correction there, Rob. They played Namir Setter in the first Champions League tournament in Novosibirsk.
That's right. Yeah, because it was funny.
Or maybe it was in Friedrichshafen, but Novosibirsk was in the pool. Sorry. Go.
Yeah, so they were playing against Friedrichshafen in that series way before with Namir at setter, and I was like watching the top 10 video that we have coming out on Trentino here very soon. Like when did they play Friedrichshafen? I don't remember them being in the same pool in the fourth round. And then I saw Namir setting. I was like, oh my goodness, what is happening right now? It was a reminder of what Trentino has been through this season. So I'm glad you brought that up. But they got through all of that with Namir playing. I mean, he was a setter before. He was a very good setter for the Dutch national team for years, but his ceiling at opposite, I think everyone would agree, is much higher. And somehow they advanced to the fourth round against all odds. They pretty much effortlessly breezed through the fourth round in a way that we weren't even really talking about them. It was weird. They got through the fourth round so convincingly against some pretty good teams that we weren't even talking about them. They beat Lokomotiv Novosibirsk, who was very good. They didn't end up having to play Friedrichshafen in the second leg of the fourth round because they they weren't able to play in the tournament, which was a shame. They get past Berlin in the quarterfinals easily. And then they beat their huge Italian rivals Perugia 3-0 in the first leg of the semifinals. All they had to do in the second leg was win 2 sets. And they actually came from behind in set 3 of that second match to do that. And that was it. Really, it's, again, another journey that's pretty much written for a sports movie, going back all the way to the earliest beginnings of this tournament, having to play people out of position, losing guys due to COVID, hype coming in, bad performance at the start of the year, and all that. Here they are playing for the Champions League title. It's incredible. It's an incredible story. It's hard to decide which of these two stories is more ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure. And I understand that Namir was a setter before, but guys, setting at this level, I can't emphasize how precise and how high level these guys are playing at. It is a game of centimeters at this point. You need to be so in tune with your hitters. And the part that I loved about it, it's not like Namir came in and they held on by the skin of their teeth against these teams.
They destroyed people.
They were beating very good teams. Like Novosibirsk was one of the best teams in Russia this year. Friedrichshafen, second place in Germany. And granted, they were missing players as well. But I mean, like they were running middles, they were running back row attacks. Namir was doing everything with his team. And I was actually lucky enough to sit down with him a few weeks ago for an article coming out on Monday, talking a little bit about this situation. And yeah, I mean, he said he gives pretty much all the credit to the hitters because they were like, Namir, we just need you for like these few weeks. Do your best. Like, we're never going to get mad at you, like where you're going to set it. But at the end of the day, they actually ran a pretty nice, pretty fast offense.
Yeah, it looked legit. And you're right, Dan. The fine line between a truly elite international offense and just a good one or an average one all depends on how good your setter is and how precise he is able to run the offense and connect with the hitters. I mean, we've talked about it all year long. I think it's the one of the big reasons why Perugia isn't quite as successful as maybe they want to be, but it is the reason why Zaxa is at where they're at because of how good Tony Udi is. Gianelli is absolutely world class. He is one of the very, very best in the world. And when you take him out of the equation, that should, in theory, be enough to basically cripple a team like Trentino. And somehow it didn't. Namir came in, he ran not a good offense, but a very good offense, one that was more than good enough to, like Dan said, not just like survive against good teams, but to destroy them. They dominated Dinamo Moscow. They like convincingly beat Friedrichshafen twice back when Nemir was setting. It's crazy that they were able to do this.
Yeah, for sure. Just a clarification, he didn't. I don't think he played in Moscow against Moscow as a setter, but he did play the entire first tournament. And yes, Tomek, we do know that actually, yeah. To be fair, the last time Nemir played as a setter, I believe, unless he played his first season in France as well, was for Kędzierzyn-Koźle, which is kind of a funny a funny anecdote as well. Risto, the finals are on the same day as your birthday. That is awesome. That is a great birthday party, 1st of May.
Sweet, yeah.
Love
Happy
to see
birthday
it.
to you.
Happy birthday. Okay, so we talked about, now we know exactly how the teams got there, the storylines behind the season, and that's like the part I love about sports the most, these stories that develop over the season. It's so much fun to follow. But let's get into a bit more of the nitty-gritty, the analysis, the key matchups here. I don't know if you want to go do all the positions or just go a few key positions. Where do you want to start here, Rob?
Let's do a couple. Let's start with Zaxa, and I think everything about their team's success has been like, if I could pick one player that is responsible, and Zaxa might be the best full team of players in terms of everyone's overall impact to the team in anyone in volleyball, but I think it really starts with Benjamin Toniutti. I don't think that's a very hot take. I think his level of importance can't possibly be overstated. I was just praising his ability to run that offense so fast, so precise, to understand what his hitters need, to utilize their strengths to create separation with speed and movement, and make great set choices, to serve the ball surprisingly really effectively, to play tremendous defense, and to occasionally come up out of nowhere and stuff block Yoandi Leal one-on-one. So you got to love whenever you can get one of those. Zaxa as an offensive team has developed this incredible identity of being the smartest out-of-system attacking team I've probably ever seen. We've got to give their trio of wing attackers all the credit in the world. Alexander Slivka, Camille Semaniac, Łukasz Kaczmarek have exploded onto the volleyball scene this year. Semaniac, especially, a guy that we've talked about all year long, but haven't talked about much before this season. The dude is an absolute baller. He is already one of my favorite players in volleyball to watch. And all three of those players, in addition to being so physically gifted, are so smart, have such great vision. You see all the time against three big blockers out of system situations. They're so good at tipping the ball into the hands, recycling it on their side, getting the cover, swinging for the fingertips, deflecting off the hands, and basically hitting the back wall or the stands. And then occasionally when they get their openings, just swinging away and trying to go bombs away into various areas of the court. Guys have so much range, so much vision, always make the right choices. They won't necessarily like light it up on the stat sheet in terms of hitting efficiency, because with that many attempts, all they're trying to do is score a point for their team. They're not trying to have their own individual stats. But what you will see is that they make so few errors that's really the key to their offense for me. Jakub Kokonowski has had an absolutely ridiculous year in every area, maybe except for serving. But we already talked about that one block that he made against Zenit Kazan that could change like everything in European volleyball. His attacking is absolutely tremendous. David Smith has had a very, very good year. Really the same strengths. Not a big team at all on average is Zaxa. This is something that they're definitely giving up really to all the teams they've played so far, Lube, Kazan. But to Trentino, they definitely are shorter in height on average. So that will be worth talking about later. Yeah. But one big key to kind of round it out for Zaxa is the legendary libero Pavel Zatorsky. Will he be healthy enough to play in this match? That is a huge key for them.
So for those of you guys who haven't been following the Polish domestic league, Pavel Zatorsky, like you said, the engine to this team's defense. Unfortunately, he was a little bit injured in the playoffs and in the last match against Jastrzębski Węgiel, which happened a couple days ago. He was not able to play very much, Pavel Zatorsky. So obviously that is a huge problem for Kędzierzyn-Koźle if, in fact, he's still not able to play at 100% for the 1st of May. And it's already proven to really change the dynamic of their team, even already in the Polish Plus Liga. If you guys can go back and watch that match against Jastrzębski, and they still have 2 weeks. He did get on the court a bit, so he's not out with a really serious ankle or knee injury. So for sure he can come back. He's a libero. He doesn't need to jump, which is big as well. But yeah, like you said, Rob, that could be an issue maybe for them, because Zatorski is just so important for the defensive makeup of their team. He's their best receiver. He takes a lot of pressure, I think, off of Alex Śliwka for most of the season. And without him, it's going to be a different matchup, I think.
Yeah, he's an absolute difference maker. We've talked about a few times on the show the very select few liberos on the planet that are legitimate difference makers, and Zatorski is definitely one of those. Just based on the eye test, when you see Zaksa play with him versus without him, there is a difference. It's noticeable. Chemistry between the receiving unit, Zatorski, Śliwka, Semaniac, that communication, that level of trust, that the number of repetitions that you've had receiving serve is hugely important and could easily be the difference between winning and losing a set or a match. So that's a big deal. You already praised Zatorski's defense, and I totally agree. He's made some ridiculous plays this year, and with how good Zaksa is out of system, all they have to do is get the ball up in the air somewhere. And they're more likely than any other team to take advantage of those defensive plays. So that's a huge deal. It's such a big deal that you could base your prediction for this Superfinals match on whether or not Zatorski plays.
Yeah,
I would not be opposed to that at all.
I agree with that, but let's not do that. That's not nearly as fun.
It's not nearly as fun, definitely not. But you could make that argument.
Yeah, but Pavel Zatorski, the best passer out of anybody on both these teams throughout the playoffs, right, with a 31% efficiency, which is great. Yeah, and just to go back, I think Kochanowski too, just to go over a couple more stats. You said he's been good, but I don't think you really promoted how ridiculously, unfair he's been.
Great.
Yeah.
0.68 blocks per set in the playoffs of Champions League alone against every single player that he was playing against is bigger than him, which is crazy.
Yeah. Just a quick one. Jay Perquin says, does Piotr Lukashik of Zaksa play games or not? And no, we haven't seen him at all, which is a little interesting considering he was a decent player, but he doesn't really fit on the style of this team at all, in my opinion. But yeah, Kochanowski also hitting 64% hitting efficiency. And that's not percentage, guys. That's hitting efficiency, which is unbelievable. He's scoring
in the Champions League playoffs so far, 30 kills, 5 errors on 39 attempts. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, just and not to take away anything from David Smith, who's been playing very well as well, but Smith has 33 attempts, but 18 kills. So 12 less kills for David Smith in the playoffs so far compared to Kochanowski. And, you saw it with Ljubica Vitanova and Robert Landy-Simon the other day. And Taniudi's not afraid to run the offense a lot through Kochanowski when he's up in that front court.
Yeah, totally agree. It's a huge part of Zaksa's offense. When they're in system, speed and separation are the names of the game. Tony Udi able to he sees the other team and sees the game and thinks at the setter position at a truly elite level. And the way he establishes middle and moves them around is the key to how he sees what the opposing block is ready to do, and the reads and the commitments that they're able to make. And it just opens everything up for the rest of his team. So you're right. If a team isn't giving any respect in the blocking area to his middle attackers, he's just going to feed them until they do, especially if Zaksa can remain in system as they typically do statistically.
And it's not going to be easy for him, though, because, of course, Trentino also has, a couple of guys who are okay, okay at blocking. It'll be interesting to see how they do that, how much they're going to commit in the middle. But Pedrasian, one of the best middle blockers in the world, and Lisinac, typically, I would say, more known as an offensive player, but one of the few guys who can match up athletically and probably even dominate athletically against Kochanowski. So that speed matchup is going to be really interesting between Lizinac and Kochanowski. But one matchup I want to go over is the opposites, because I think one guy who we underrated being such a big part of the Zaksa experience this season was Łukasz Kaczmarek, who was injured last year, which I thought played a large role in not their disappointing season, but that loss to Kemerovo in the Champions League first round. That did happen, and yeah, I think having him back and having him play at this level, which in my opinion is a higher level than he's ever played before, is really good to see it. And if he can come close to matching up against Namir Abdelaziz, that is a huge win for Zaksa.
Totally agree, Dan. I think you nailed it. Kaczmarek has been absolutely huge for Zaksa this year. I think that the opposite is such a fascinating position to me. I've talked about this a lot on this show, probably several other shows, but you notice when you watch an international tournament, a club tournament, a national team event, the MVP of the tournament is typically the opposite on the winning team. He's the guy who has maybe the hardest job of any player, and that's scoring points at high volume and high efficiency in not good situations. That is his job. That is the job of an opposite at this high of a level. There is a clear distinction, in my opinion, between the truly elite opposites in the world and those who are just not quite there yet. And this year, Kaczmarek has been, I think, the only player that I can think of to ascend to that elite level, in my opinion. He is an elite international opposite.
So
who else do you think has made that jump this year?
Adis Lagumdzija, opposite.
Oh yeah, Lagumdzija for Monza has been phenomenal as well. I agree with that one.
Yeah, I mean, over here, yeah, you would have to look through. But yeah, I mean, Kaczmarek, I mean, I think one thing that maybe people don't recognize about him enough is that he's probably, I would say, the best back row defender at the opposite position. The guy used to play outside hitter, he used to be a beach player, and I think that really shows the fact that he's so mobile at being 204 centimeters is pretty impressive.
Agreed. He's the tallest player on his team, and he is an important and well-utilized cog in the Zaksa backcourt defense, and we've already talked about how important that is to their team. So agreed. I think that's a part of his game that needs to be given credit.
And okay, the last matchup I want to talk about here before we move on, I think these players, they feel like they're connected for me, and that's Camille Semaniac and Ricardo Lucarelli. Because first of all, I feel like they have really similar games. They're undersized, 195, 196 centimeter outside hitters. They're both, very complete players, could pass, serve, attack, block, do everything. And I think they both kind of had interesting stories the past couple of years to get where they are. Lucarelli, obviously, with that devastating injury in 2017, and playing in his first year out of Italy, a lot of stuff going on for him. And then Semaniac, also an interesting journey, playing with Zaksa Kędzierzyn-Koźle since I think 2013, rising through the youth ranks, getting loaned to Zawiercie for a year, and finally, coming into his own the last couple of years and being. I think we recognize as probably one of the best outside hitters in volleyball right now.
Both of those stories need to be talked about more. Dan, I love that you brought those up. So Ricardo Lucarelli, Brazilian, of course, tore his Achilles 3 years ago. That is maybe the most devastating injury you could possibly have for an athlete that jumps a lot. You saw Kobe Bryant have that injury later in his career. You've seen it ruin athletes' careers, and the fact that he's come back after that, after a understandable rehab period, to be playing at the level he is now cannot be overstated how amazing that is. You're right, he is a complete player. There was a reason why there was so much buzz around that signing for Trentino this year, and Semeniuk is similar in style and similar in importance. He grew up a Zaksa fan. He was going to Zaksa games when he was 10 years old, trying to get signatures from Zaksa's players, going through their youth system. You're right, got loaned to Zawiercie for 1 year, but now is a bona fide all-star on the team that he grew up rooting for, his local hometown team. An amazing story, and just well-deserving of all the credit he's gotten. He's actually Zaksa's leading scorer in terms of points per set, 4.3 points per set for Camille Semeniuk in the Champions League playoffs is incredible for an outside hitter less than 200 centimeters. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and he's doing it with aces. He's doing it with blocks. And doing so quite efficiently as well, while at the same time passing. So, Rob, what do you think about my point? Lucarelli, Semaniac, do you see similarities in the way they play?
Absolutely. Yeah, I really do. They're among the most complete players in the game. I think they're the two most entirely complete players in this matchup, and they're worthy of comparing head to head. I don't think you're going to see them like individually go at one another quite so much, but one of them performs better statistically at the end of the match could be a pretty good indicator, as will the battle of the two opposites between Kaczmarek and Nemir. So I think those are very worthwhile matchups to study going into the match and afterwards. And a couple other things about Trentino individually that I want to talk about. The one name that I don't think we've said yet in this show, Alessandra Mikaletto.
Well, yeah, I was wondering when we were going to bring this guy up, because
What
he's
a
just been
story.
Oh man. So, do you want me to go over it quickly?
Hit it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Alessandro Mikaletto, a guy who I would say was not entirely on a lot of people's radar, at least maybe in spring of 2020. But he started to make news when he was the MVP of the U21 European Championships, with going against some very good players on Italy and Russia to get that prize as well. And, he was on Trentino, but I don't think anyone was seriously considered would end up the way they did, which is Mikaletto, for the most part, starting on the team. And he is probably one of the most unique players that I've seen in men's volleyball. There's a term in basketball called a unicorn player. And
Yep.
that's kind of how I feel with Alessandro Mikaletto. He kind of defies expectations. He is almost 7 feet taller, or I believe 208, 209 centimeters tall, as an outside hitter at 19 years old. So
Left-handed.
usually it's not perfect, but usually there's a good correlation between you don't pass well when you're a young player and you don't pass well when you're a tall player for your position.
Right.
And Mikaletto completely defies both of those things, because he has been a reception specialist at 19 at like 207, 208 centimeters.
Yeah, it's crazy. I like the unicorn term. It's like a combination of physical attributes and skills that you would never ordinarily expect. Yeah, just seeing a 19-year-old 208 centimeter tall, left-handed, left side hitter be a ball control specialist doesn't make any sense. Like that combination doesn't compute in my head as an experienced volleyball watcher. But the kid is a stud. He's been exactly what Trentino has needed. He does everything well. He is not relied upon to score at a very high volume, only 1.8 points per set in the playoffs, but that's okay. It doesn't mean he's not important. He passes nails. He takes up a really meaningful amount of court from Rossini and Lucarelli. He blocks phenomenally well. He's a very good blocking left side blocker, of course, at his height. That's a huge advantage. And again, he's only 19 years old. He carries himself with just a level of maturity and preparedness and confidence without being cocky that I just love. He's fun to watch because he does everything so well. You'll see a play in Trentino's top 10 when that comes out on YouTube here very soon about
tomorrow, guys. Tomorrow.
Yep. About a defensive play that he made. Can't remember. It was off a crazy cover. He ran a ball down behind the end line with an absolutely perfect bump set to Lucarelli, who killed it against 3 blockers. The kid is great. He is such an important piece for Trentino, worthy of talking about. Funny that we have a left-handed outside hitter on both of these teams. As rare as that is,
Yeah.
Both of these teams have one of those guys.
Oh yeah, I forgot to even mention he's a lefty too, of course. Yeah. So why don't we go? I'm just going to go through, because I feel like we're getting a lot of questions here in the chat, and I think there were a couple of good ones there. By the way, love the discussion in the chat right now between Semaniac and Lucarelli. Guys, I want to hear your best arguments for either player, because I think there's some interesting ones going on. But one thing I want to address, somebody was asking, can I watch the game? Where can I watch the game? How can I watch? Guys, we have a superfinals.cv.eu how to watch. So if anyone wants to link this in the chat, that would be very helpful. But basically, it breaks down for every country who your broadcaster is, where you can watch it, the timing, everything you guys need to know, the different channels that you can watch it on. So definitely check out how to watch on the superfinals.cv.eu homepage. So you guys get all that information in one place. Someone said, is Kaczmarek remind you of prime Svet and Sokolov? And no, I think they're pretty different players.
I agree. That's an interesting comparison. I agree that he's not like Sokolov. Sokolov is a big banger. And one of the unique factors about Sokolov, I think his arm swing is kind of unique in a cool way. I think he hits the ball down the line as a right-handed opposite better than maybe anyone in the world. But he's not the same in style as Kaczmarek. Who would you compare Kaczmarek to in opposite play style, Dan? Because I can't really think of anybody, honestly.
I think he has a little bit of, yeah, it's tough because he's a bit unique. I would say maybe a bit of Matt Anderson, maybe. I would say.
I was thinking Matt Anderson too.
Okay,
like
good,
the outside hitter background, he doesn't have the biggest arm of all time. He's not gonna like light up the speedometer from jump serving. And that's not to say that Matt Anderson's jump serve is not absolutely vicious, because it is, and so is Kaczmarek's. But I think there's a little bit of similarity there. Really good range. They like to hit the ball deep in the court. They really swing smart. Both front and back row equally effective. Anderson, a very good defender, like you said about Kaczmarek earlier. So I'll take that. I'll take that comparison for now. I think it might be the closest thing.
Well, I'm glad we came to agreement there. Unlike the chat, who cannot agree on Lucarelli versus Semaniac.
It's okay. I like that debate.
Okay, so before we get to our debate, Rob, do you want to go over strengths and weaknesses for the teams, or do you think we've covered it enough already?
It'll be a little bit part of our debate, but I already talked about Trentino as a clear size advantage. Very obviously an average height advantage across the board. I think Kaczmarek is Zaxa's tallest player at 204, and right, I might be making that up, but Trentino, Gianelli's big, 200 or so. Lisanach is massive. Pedrasian's big. Namir's big, and Mikaletto's big. So big advantage there for Trentino, but that has not stopped Zaxa before. They had that same disadvantage against Lube and very seriously against Zenit Kazan. Won those matchups anyway. Service pressure, just in terms of aces per set, Trentino's got a bit of an advantage there. And especially if Zatorsky cannot go in this matchup, I think the serve and pass battle, at least in terms of service pressure, Trentino might have a little bit of an advantage. I think defensively, Zaxa has an advantage there. That's clearly been their strength all year long. Out of system attacking, they're as good as anybody, any club team that we've ever even seen. Blocking, in terms of just pure number of blocks, Trentino leads Zaxa in blocks per set 2.5 to 1.8. So size advantage, again, that doesn't mean as much with Zaxa's strengths in smart out of system attacking, but it is worth mentioning. And then passing efficiency, attack efficiency, and kill percentage almost identical. So that is going to be really fun. That just the fact that those key aspects of just like side out and transition offense are so remarkably similar, I think is going to make for a great match.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, actually, yeah, a lot of these teams are aspects of these teams are pretty similar across them. And one thing I'm really excited is kind of the strategy and the skill level of both these teams. I feel like both of them are not afraid to mix it up with the block. I feel like there's not going to be a lot of unforced errors, reception errors. Both these teams are usually very coordinated in their defense. So going to be an exciting one there. I feel like it's going to be a very smooth game on the men's side.
Yeah, smooth, clean, like beautiful to watch. It's a great point. There probably won't be very many unforced errors. Probably not a lot of highlight reel physical plays necessarily. Maybe not compared to like a Lube or a Zenit Kazan, but the rallies that you can expect will be all-time great between these two teams. That Just their play styles match up for that. Just a beautiful, visually appealing style of volleyball is something you can really look forward to about this. And Dan, before we get into the debate, I think it's worth going over quickly where these teams are at domestically right now.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
So Trentino is playing in the Champions League Superfinals in a one-match do-or-die, winner take all thing against Zaxa on May 1st, but they are not playing for their domestic league championship, which is insane. They lost to Lube in the semifinals. I think 3-1.
Yep, 3. They won 1 and then
lost the next 3.
Yeah.
So Trentino has had nothing to do the past at least week or so, and will have nothing else to play for competitively until the Champions League Superfinals. So that's worth talking about. Does that mean they'll be rusty in game competition sense, or does that give them an advantage in the fact that they can concentrate only on this one matchup? So that could go either way. Meanwhile, Zaxa playing for the Plus Liga title in a best-of-3 series in the finals. But what is very interesting, like we talked about earlier, or alluded to at least, is that they lost the first match to Jastrzębski Węgiel 3-1. Very unexpected. Now, I don't doubt that Zaxa will come back and win that series and win the championship. I think they're the better team. But how does that affect them in Champions League? They have to put a lot of effort towards winning 2 straight matches to win their domestic league, and then turn around about a week later, if I'm correct on the schedule, maybe a week and a half, and play Trentino for Champions League. So again, that could be an advantage or a disadvantage depending on how you look at it, but definitely worth talking about that these two teams are in a very different place right now in their respective domestic leagues.
And I feel like it was similar on the women's with Caneliano just starting their final series.
Great point.
And Vakif Bank being done. By the way, guys, women's will do the same thing next Friday with the women's league. So don't worry if you're a women's volleyball fan and we haven't gotten to your stuff, because we're definitely going to talk about that as well. But yeah, like you said, I think the timing is always a big factor here. And I think we've actually had a pretty lucky season with health. Other than Alexander Tanasevic on Perugia, it's been relatively smooth sailing for a lot of the top teams. So that's always nice to see. I hate to see matchups kind of completely change due to injuries, due to health. So yeah, really hoping that both teams have full lineups. And I think we'll see it, because I think Pavel Zatorsky will be ready physically for the super finals. But I think the more interesting thing is, are they going to be mentally ready? Because I think at this point of the season, that's almost as much or a bigger factor than physical health, just because the strain and the intensity of all these 5 setters where you're 1 point you think you're going home, and the next point you're through to the super finals. That's got to be straining as well.
If there's one team that can handle that mentally, it's Zaxa. And great point, because that is no joke. Bouncing back and forth between European and domestic competition, like being a part of such these crazy high level and close matches, is a mental strain for sure. It is taxing mentally. It requires a huge amount of team and individual preparedness, but if there's one team that can handle it, I think it's Zaxa. I agree with you. I think Pavel Zatorsky will be ready. He dressed for the last match. He might have played a point or two. He didn't start. He didn't play much, but that's a better sign than seeing him in street clothes on the sidelines or whatever. So I'm optimistic about that. Hope that we see him, because it just generates better volleyball and a better matchup. So I think it's time, Dan. I think it's time to make our picks in a longer form debate format. I think we got to do this thing.
All right. So everyone, thank you so much for sticking around this hour-long preview show. This is going to be just about our last segment. We're going to be doing a debate. If you guys have watched the show before, you know the drill. Myself and Rob will both take different sides of a topic for a debate. And it's an easy one today, because we have opposite predictions on who will win the super finals. And guys, everyone in the chat, if you are agreeing with Rob's opinion, we'd love to see that spicy pepper emoji in the chat. That's how you can show your support for him. And if you think my arguments are stronger, then let's get some wave emojis in the chat, and we'll see who is going to come up and win. Maybe this will decide who wins the super finals, Rob. You never know.
Maybe it will. I like leading up to big sporting events. People have the most like arbitrary and random ways to pick a winner.
Yeah,
And
it's
see
like the
which one of
octopus
them.
that picks something.
The octopus, or like just I don't know, like a dog eating out of a certain food bowl or whatever. I love those. Those are funny.
Okay, why don't we see if there's any comments down here? Because before we get started on the debate, yeah, Zax is exhausted. Zaxa was lucky Kazan had a bad day. I would say Kazan actually played better in that match than they did in several matches after. Okay, I hope Vakiv Bank beats Caneliano. That's for next week. And yeah, I think that's about it. I think we're ready to get into the debate here.
Let's do it.
All right, Rob, start us off.
I will. So my pick is Trentino. I think Trentino is going to win this match. I think Trentino is going to win the Champions League. It's funny, first of all, because Dan and I's picks going into this tournament, I had Lube, he had Zenit Kazan. Both are out, so we have no shame in picking new sides for this match only. So here's why I've got Trentino. They're more complete right now, in my opinion. They are playing a truly beautiful, pure, great, complete style of volleyball. They have more service pressure than Zaxa, aces per set, more blocks per set, like I said. They've had all these probably 3 full weeks to focus only on the Zaxa matchup. I actually see that as an advantage for Trentino. I think Zaxa's got a lot going on mentally, physically with this series that they're playing in the Plusliga right now. I think that could be enough of distraction, not distraction, but like enough of a mental and physical barrier to prevent them from maybe giving their full and total attention to this Trentino matchup. I don't think Zaxa will be able to stop Namir Abdelaziz. I don't think Zaxa is able to apply quite enough service pressure to take Trentino's middles out of the offense. I think Pedrasian and Lisinac are absolutely going to feast in this matchup. I think Mikaletto is going to do his thing. I think he's going to contribute, not going to score a ton, but he'll give you 6 or 7 really important points. I think Lucarelli is going to play great. He's been playing great recently. I really like the style of volleyball that Trentino plays. I think is similar enough to Zaxa in that Zaxa's strengths will be at least close to matched by Trentino, but Trentino's strengths are not quite going to be able to be matched by Zaxa. I like Trentino in this match. I think playing in Italy is just a tiny bit of an advantage, not much because there won't be any or many fans there. Trentino is my pick. That is why I think the numbers back it up just a little. I think the preparation time is a huge advantage. I think the size, serving, and blocking advantages will hold a lot of weight in this match. I think it's going to be close, but I've got Trentino.
All right, thanks, Rob. And yeah, the one thing I can agree on from there is that it will be close because I think these are 2 great teams. But I think there's a big thing that we're overlooking here, which is that Trentino this season has been a serving and blocking team. They are a team of runs. They get as many break points as they can when Namir Abdelaziz serving, Mikaletto blocking, Lisinac, Pedrasian and blocking. But the issue is they're going against one of the best Saido teams in volleyball. And we saw the exact same thing with Lube, Civitanova, and Zenit Kazan, who are also great serving and great blocking teams. They could not break that Zaxa side-out offense because they're such a good passing team. When Alexander Slivka is your worst passer, that is a great thing. They have Taniudi, who's going to run it almost in system, even if there's a 1 pass or a 0 pass. You have very smart hitters who can hit basically any ball, even if it's a bad ball from Taniudi. So getting runs against Zaxa has proven to be incredibly hard this year. Even when Zaxa has lost, and the couple times they have, it's been close games. They're almost never going to get out of the running. And I think that's the main reason why I believe Kędzierzyn-Koźle will win. And I have to say, it's not looking too great for Namir Abdelaziz recently either. And if you stop Namir, you stop Trentino. They're a great all-around team. Yes, they're going to have an advantage offensively in the middle, but let Lisinac score 14 points. Let Pedrasian score 8 points. That's not going to win you the game. You can't rely on Mikaletto and Lucarelli as outside hitters. Nemir needs to have 20 plus points for them to win this game. And recently, he's in those last 2 games against Ljubic Iftanova, 16 for 45 with, I believe, like close to 10 errors. So if Nemir is playing at that level and they're not able to go on those big runs that define their season, I think it's going to go the first Polish champion or first non-Russian Italian champion since 2007.
Great points. Yeah, I really do think this could go either way. I think this is going to be one of the best. There have been some incredible super finals matches in the past 5-10 years. This is going to be one of them. A very worthy matchup. It's definitely going to add to the history and the legend of this tournament. I just can't wait to watch it. And you and I will have a lot to wrap up the show after this happens for both men's and women's to see if our predictions hold true and see if, I don't know, who the decider of who really wins these debates is who wins the matches, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that we both made good points, and I think it's pretty much tied right now. So I'm just gonna say the next emoji, the next emoji decides it on this one because I don't want to count exactly. But yeah, you made some great points, Rob. Like it's gonna be such an exciting matchup. And guys, to end the episode here, before I announce the winner of the debate, if you have any questions, if you want to, anything that we didn't get to in the show, ask it again, ask it in the chat, and we'll try and get to a few of them before we let you guys enjoy your Friday. I think a good one from earlier, someone asked, what do you think about Andrea Argenta as the second opposite for Trentino? Any strong opinions there, Rob?
Not much. I haven't seen much of him. Admittedly, I'm not the greatest person to ask. He's come in. He played when Gianelli was out and Nemir was setting back in late 2020. We've seen him come in. Like the backups played a whole set against Berlin after Trentino had already advanced to the quarterfinals. So we saw him then. I think he's good. He's a perfectly good opposite role player. He's not gonna light up a stat sheet, but he's less error prone than some opposites at his size, which I like. I don't like guys that spray the ball out of bounds a lot. So I think Argenta's a good player. I think we'll see where he goes next year. If he sticks with Trentino in a clearly backup role, or if he tries to go somewhere else in Italy that he's going to play a little bit more. We'll see. I don't really have that many strong opinions though.
Yeah, and I liked him a lot. When he was on Modena that one season, I believe, replacing an injured Giulio Sabini, had a fantastic run.
Yeah, I remember. That's right. I remember that.
But yeah, probably not going to be a factor here. And Rob, I have to say, we just the tide's going up. We're getting some good waves here. So looks like Kędzierzyn-Koźle is going to be the winner of the superfinals, according to the emojis in our chat.
According to the emojis. Well, hey, that's as good of a predictor as any as we talked about. Last thing, Georgie with a great point. We haven't talked about the coaching matchup yet.
Yes, good point. I don't know about coaching for one game matchups in volleyball though.
True. It's a bigger deal in a series, in a 2-match series like we've seen, or in a domestic series like best of 3, best of 5. Yeah, one match, like you're not the only lineup wrinkles we've seen for either team are Zaxa. We've seen Christoph Reyno come in the middle a couple times, and Trentino, we've seen Dick Coy at outside hitter. Other than that, there are really no potential lineup changes for either team other than that, like one guy per team. I don't know, different starting rotations might be a little bit of a factor, but not really. I don't know if I see coaching having a massive impact on this game in the match. I think preparation it will, but it's going to be an execution battle. It's going to be a serving, or it's maybe not as much a serving battle, definitely a passing battle, and then an execution of side out offense. A lot of long rallies like we anticipated with as good of defensive teams as these two are. I think it's just an execution style battle. I don't know if coaching in the match is going to have a huge impact. We'll see,
so if you're Gerbic, who are you saying to serve on Trentino?
Who am I targeting? I don't know. It's got to be Lucarelli, especially if he's in the front row.
Exactly. I think that's good. And I don't know if you watched the Lube Perugia match, but they completely took Leon out of the game with that exact same strategy. Just serving him front row, making sure he has to move to his position. And then what about if you're Lorenzetti, who would you target?
Well, if Zatorsky's not in, then whoever their backup libero is, for sure. which is, it's crazy to target a libero, but if it's not Zatorsky, that is who I would go after. And man, I don't know. I think you got to tell the Trentino servers, especially the big jump servers, to just go up and hit your best serve. I don't think Zaksa has enough passing weaknesses to target anyone in particular. If you're a float server, I think a good move is to always serve the front row outside hitter, whoever it is between Schlifka and Semaniac. But I don't know. I don't know if there's that much to targeting against Zaksa. I think
I might disagree. I might disagree with you there a little bit, Rob, because Alexander Schlifka got by far the most targets out of anyone in their playoff matchup. Looking at our stat sheet here, and he had the lowest efficiency.
You're right. He has way more passing attempts than anyone else. That's crazy.
And granted, I guess it didn't work for the teams that played them, but
I still lost.
But I think Zatorsky. The thing is, Zatorsky and Semaniac are like Semaniac's a libero who can also jump and hit, right? Like they're so good at receiving. I think Slivka, just by process of elimination, is the only guy you can serve on that one.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll see if those numbers hold up. Still, if like you said earlier, Dan, if Schlifka is the worst passer on your team, you're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah. LMKXD asks the X factor player from each team, and I think I have a guy who we haven't really talked about too much today, and that's Marco Pedrasian on Trentino, because you guys know we've talked about it. Zax is not a team that's gonna crush the ball over the block. They're not a team that's gonna maybe see the occasional Semaniac outside hand to a position.
4-4.
Yeah, the 4-4.
Yeah.
But in general, they're a team that's scoring their points off the block in a lot of cases, especially from the outside position. And when you have just that slightly better middle blocker that's getting there half a second faster, that's reaching 5 centimeters higher, that can really make a difference on those really tight plays. And Pedrasian, if he's able to establish that block really well against the wing hitters of Zaksa, that could be a big factor. If he goes through the match with 4 or 5 kill blocks, probably that's a win for Trentino.
That is such a good point. Pedrasian, I don't think gets enough credit for how fundamentally great of a blocker he is.
Yeah,
there must be something in the water in Serbia, because Dragan Stankovic is the same thing, and Lisinac, just more of a freak athlete than he is like a fundamental master, but he'll get there later in his career. Pedrasian is so good. The reads he makes, the moves he makes, the discipline with his hands is so key against a team like Zaksa, like Dan said, that wants to score points off the hands. So any little tiny margin of improvement in height, in hand positioning, in timing could be a really big deal against an offense like Zaksa's that wants to take advantage of that. I'm really glad you brought that up. That's a great point. And then for Zaksa X Factor, I think similar vein, I think it could be Kokonowski. Okay.
And just this exact same reasons, or do you think the fact that they're just running so much of their offense through him is important?
I think his is a little more of an offensive impact, but blocking too. He's the only player on this list with double-digit kill blocks in the playoffs so far. 13. The next closest is Pedrasian with 9, which is ridiculous. 0.7 kill blocks a set. Zaksa is an undersized team. It's just a fact. Their strengths come from elsewhere, but blocking is a huge deal. We've seen Trentino struggle against great blocking teams before. Lube for sure is a phenomenal blocking team, and if Kokonowski can make some of those plays, if he continues that blocking performance, that's a big difference. But I think offensively, it's just such a huge thing. We talked about it earlier, the way that Tony Udi likes to separate the offense, using middle to create space and then using speed elsewhere. If Kokonowski can get involved, if he hits 64% efficiency on any remotely high volume, that is an incredible sign for the Zaksa offense in this match. And it's so much so that it could be the difference. So we've already talked about the stars, the guys who are expected to score at high volumes, but I like that as answers to the X factor question. I also love just giving middle blockers some love.
Yeah, without a doubt, someone unexpected from these teams will play a very important role. We see it every single time in the
Totally.
Champions League finals. Someone who you don't expect. You mentioned Dragan Stankovic, where he had like a career best game in one of the Champions League finals or semifinals a couple of years ago. There's all these players are the best in the world, and that's what we get to see in the super finals. And for sure, someone is going to be the hero. It might not be the MVP, but it's going to be like the difference maker role player guy. Not that any of these guys are role players. So anyway, guys, if there's no more questions in the chat, I believe we got to most of them here. I think that's going to be it for our preview episode of the European Volleyball Show on the men's side. I'm just going to give you guys a quick preview of the content we have coming next week, because there is a lot of stuff. We have tons of articles, like I mentioned earlier, on our website, the new website, cv.eu, or championsleague.cv.eu, superfinals.cv.eu. So check that out. We have a podcast coming out next week on the A Space with actually a guest that I'm probably more excited for than I have been in a while. And I'm not sure if I can say who it is, but they are a player who's playing in the Champions League Superfinals and retiring after this year. So maybe you can put two and two together there. Rob did it. We have a top 10 Trentino plays video coming out tomorrow, so definitely check that out on YouTube. And yeah, it's tough to keep track of all this content, but we will be back next Friday at the same time, same place, with the women's superfinals preview as well, going to the same amount of depth and detail and breaking down the men's is like a Cinderella story seasons. That is the Captain Hook, or I don't know what the Disney equivalent is. The witch.
Yeah, like the big bad angry villain who's been like the strongest and best the whole time. Yeah, I'm excited to break that down. And call to action, those of you watching, if you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, press the button right now.
Yes.
We looked at our numbers, but like pretty much 50% of the people that watch this show aren't subscribed to the channel. That's crazy. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's so much great stuff between live matches, highlight videos, this show, so much. There's so much phenomenal YouTube content from the CEV. So if you don't want to miss that, and you'd be crazy to want to miss that, press the button. Just do it.
Yeah, like this video, guys. Subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends. European Volleyball Show, 5 p.m. European time on Fridays. Best place, I would say, to catch up on all the stuff going on in European volleyball. And I think, Rob,
if you do say so yourself, yeah. Thanks to all of you who have made watching us a part of your Fridays and have been so active in the chat. It's been awesome. We've loved all these episodes. We're excited for next week to break down the women's and the matches. The big day. The big day is coming up pretty soon, Dan. I'm excited about it.
Yes, very close, 2 weeks away. So definitely, guys, you need to be watching the Super Final. So there's a way to watch it from everywhere. Figure out what it is, and we'll all be watching alongside you guys. So thanks for joining us today in the chat, guys, and we'll see you next Friday.